He says he wants to be on with Johnny. No guest hosts. No David Brenner. No McLean Stevenson.
Yes, also he says he wants as special guest Clint Eastwood.
Herb, you know, he could guest host.
That's a
Great idea, Phil. Look, we're in a position here to save the world. You on Johnny. Johnny. And here's Leonard. Good. We have a deal.
Good. We got a deal.
Also, he would very much like to say...
Live from New York is Saturday night.
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime podcast. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson. Hooah! This week we're talking about Season 2, Episode 19 with host Elliott Gould and musical guests the McGarrigle sisters and Roslyn Kind. Brad?
Gary,
Elliott?
What are the McGarrigle sisters' first names?
Kate and Anna McGarrigle. You thought you were going to get me on that one.
I did. I totally did.
Quick, Brad, who's Roslyn Kind related to?
Barbra Streisand.
That is correct. Who
And
is
Elliott Gould's
the
son.
ex-wife of, yes, Elliott Gould. Elliott Gould.
We're back, baby! We're back.
No mustache for Elliott Gould again. Sans mustache.
That's all he's been doing, I think, since the last time he hosted was shaving. He's got nothing else going on but just being clean shaven.
He's what else does he have to do?
Nothing.
He wasn't doing anything.
No, in all seriousness, he's in a movie that comes out this summer called A Bridge Too Far, this big ensemble film that would come out. But I mean, I actually like that. You know what I mean? Like this is back when the show didn't need to push stuff. Right. And it's like, here's an instance of them getting a known quantity, a friend of the show. They get them back. You know what you can count on, like someone who can deliver. Like I was like, yeah, come on in. Let's do it. And then let's fuck it up.
Well, yeah, it's not the strongest Elliott Gould episode.
It's not good. It's not good.
But I think it's super disappointing because it's Elliott Gould, right?
Yep. Completely. You have certain expectations with like a Buck Henry, a Steve Martin, an Elliott Gould, a Madeline Kahn, a Lily Tomlin. Like you're expecting a game.
Right. Anything else of note, or should we just get into this?
No, it's Elliott Gould just stopping by, a bunch of singers that have no business being on the show.
Jokes and sketches that don't have much business being on the show either. So let's just get into it.
Even you've turned. Let's do it. All right.
I know. I don't know if I've turned. All right. So the cold open starts with Elliott Gould he's Herb Goodman again, right?
He's Herb Goodman again. Yes.
NBC executive Herb Goodman, who's negotiating for the broadcast rights of the 1980 Olympics with a Russian colonel played by Dan and a secretary played by Gilda, a Russian secretary, and Bill is his right-hand man.
They're still working the 80s Moscow Olympics gag.
It's funny. Years before they boycotted the Olympics. Gould is negotiating with Dan and Gilda, and they finally come to some agreement for some video equipment. And then John comes in as Soviet Premier Brezhnev. And he comes in from the bathroom, of course.
His entrance is both cheap but funny. He comes out like shaking his leg, like he's drying his pants. Like it was a dumb joke, but it was funny.
And he comes out and he goes back to negotiating with them. And he's threatening to launch a nuclear bomb if he doesn't get on Johnny Carson with not in the last 15 minutes of Carson, not with a guest host.
Not with a guest host.
So it was, and that was the setup. That was the joke. What'd you think?
Bad. I thought it was kind of refreshing to not see a meta piece. Like it was nice to have them go back and do an actual sketch. And I actually think the working in the Live from New York worked pretty organically into the sketch. It didn't stand out. So that kind of actually all worked for me for the most part. And Elliott Gould was good. He had the first line, which was cool. And Elliott Gould's in good form in this cold open. Yeah. Like he's doing good. So I was in a good mood. Yeah. And Bill was decent. John was fun. Like it was all kind of working.
Not for nothing, but I wasn't really sure why we needed both Gilda and Dan to be interpreting for John. When it was just like, it felt like too many people at that point. But that's neither here nor there, I suppose. I agree with you. Like the live from New York that John did was organic. It wasn't forced.
It played well.
worked.
And like,
yeah,
they've been doing the meta stuff so well recently, but this was a nice change of pace.
it was a decent cold open. It gets us to the opening credits. Nothing of note.
No, is it? They go back. Does Don Pardo not call it Saturday Night Live? Right?
Correct.
He
did
was
not.
weird.
When he plugs the home movies, the mailing address he gives on the screen, it just says NBC's Saturday Night. And he says, send to NBC's Saturday Night Live. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
And
it was just a mistake.
The bumpers with Elliott Gould say Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think it was just a mistake in the opening credits because I heard that as well. From there, Elliott Gould comes out for his monologue in a full tuxedo with tails and a top hat and cane and talks about doing your favorite, a song and dance number.
he got a nice response. I got to give him credit. I think the crowd was excited, rightfully so,
Sure.
to see him back on stage. And then he mentions he's back and it's his hometown, and he blatantly pauses for an applause that never comes. Like he really wanted that applause and be like, I'm from New York. Anybody?
No.
And I do like how he blames being a song and dance man on that. That is what he was told to do when he was a kid. Like that's why he's going to do yet another song and dance number.
We saw that Gary Weiss film with his teacher, that guy that taught all the kids. Right?
I had that same thought when he said that too.
Yeah.
I am at this point in this monologue pissed. My note is no, double exclamation point. Why does he feel the need to sing during his monologue? This isn't season 1. Quickly followed by, guarantee this song is from the 1930s. Shit, it's 1927. But
yes,
to their credit, I was duped.
You were duped. He goes on to talk about singing a song from the 1927 play, The Gypsy Priest.
It's almost like he knew people would be pissed. Like they knew people were going to be pissed off, and they just totally did the rope-a-dope, which is, it makes it even better. It
totally
makes it
did.
even better.
And he's going to sing a song written by Tommy Malone.
Tommy Malone.
And Mo Goldfarb.
Who is really Michael O'Donoghue.
Right. And then it goes to Don Pardo introducing the song over a still image of Rockefeller Center. And we go back to Elliott Gould on stage singing with John and Bill. And they're singing the Castration Walk.
This is so stupid. And I mean that as a compliment. It is so stupid and so hilarious. It just plays up on his song and dance man persona. Yes. It's just great. And John and Bill are great. And the lyrics are just so stupid and funny. It's so good.
It is good. We know he's a really good song and dance man, but there's this like one section where he's dancing and the other two fall down or pretend
where
to
John
fall down.
falls and then Bill's in pain and gets down on his knee. Yeah.
He's great. Like Elliott Gould is a great song and dance man. I thought it was even better that it's such a silly song. Like I agree with you. It's so dumb, but it's really funny.
Oh yeah, there's great lines like, and we're not going to do it justice, but like they get their voices up high, and there's a line where your voice goes up and you sound like this. You don't want to hug and you don't want to kiss.
Yes.
Now you're doing the castration. It's a brand new sensation.
Well, I went to the rabbi and he sent me to the mohel, but the mohel was clumsy and he made me a goya.
Now you're doing the castration. It will sweet nation.
I was sliding down the banister and didn't see the ouch. Now I feel like a kangaroo who lost his pouch.
Now we're doing the castration. It's no cause for elation.
Officer, I'd like to report a jewel heist.
This was a lot of fun. I liked that they were not necessarily making fun of the fact that he sang the first two monologues that he did, but they played off of it.
But it was fun. And like I said, the beginning, I fell for it. And I was like, don't do this. Why another song and dance? You don't have to do it again. And they turned it on its head and they did a really great job with it. It was good.
It was a strong start to the show, I thought.
Yeah.
Right? We got this.
I think so.
Decent cold open, this good monologue. We're in good shape. And then we go to the Coneheads. So you feel really good.
Yeah. Yeah. It did take me a minute because they come back and you see the living room set. And my first note was, is it the Coneheads? Because
Right.
I didn't expect it so quick with Dan in the cold open that he'd change over so quick. And they show the living room blank. And I was like, oh, okay.
I didn't know exactly what was going on first. I thought it was the Coneheads, but then Elliott Gould knocks on the door. No one answers, so he just comes in, which is totally natural for a phone company serviceman, I guess. And then you see that it's the
baby.
Coneheads. The Coneheads all appear at the top of the stairs, and we get the chyron that says the Coneheads at home.
Yeah, and this is it. This is the new star sketch, whatever you want to call it. Like they come down the steps and they just freeze, and they wait for the applause to die down to go on for the sketch. I feel like this is the first time since the Samurai Hitman sketch, where they're blatantly setting up a reoccurring character to come in and get the applause and then go forward. And it was just so obvious in this instance.
So they come down and Elliott Gould is playing a phone company serviceman. They called him there to install 35 different lines into their house.
We need them. We're from France.
He goes out
Jane's rationale.
Yeah. And then he goes out to get the phones, and Dan goes upstairs because they were communicating with Remulac. And there's a gag with Jane and Lorraine cleaning, and Jane doesn't like to use the vacuum, so she just uses her mouth and sucks it all up. Anyway,
they play that gag again.
Yeah,
definitely in the movie, right? I feel like I remember that gag in the movie.
Yeah, that sounds right. And then Dan comes back to tell them that Murcon from Remulac will be coming, and he comes in the form of Garrett.
Yeah, baby. It's my note. This is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I kind of thought that too.
But it is our first non-Conehead. So that's cool.
Yeah. And Garrett comes in to tell them about, news from Remulac. They have to stay for 125 Earth years. Yeah, it just kind of didn't really go anywhere. I mean, it was just a lot of conversation with no jokes.
Well, it's stuff we've all heard before. That's the problem.
Right.
Like all of this up until Garrett landing, you're like, all right, this is kind of cool. Where's it going? This is different. Like now we have a new Conehead person. So they're still trying to make it different, something new. But then the minute they start talking to Garrett, it's just all the same shit we've seen. Like they literally say word for word the bit about Dan and the speech and how he lost it and why he didn't give the speech. It's like literally the same exact dialogue they gave the first time.
Right.
And it doesn't get any better. They just rehash stuff, and it's stuff we've heard. And Dan does the bit where he takes the whole pack of cigarettes and lights them. So it just immediately turns into regurgitating the same old stuff we've seen.
Yeah.
And for the first time, the Coneheads have not advanced themselves, and they've gone backwards as far as a sketch goes.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, because it was all just repeats. So,
and then Elliott comes back in, and they do the bit where Lorraine comes down and talks about the cone, and he finds the hoops under her bed, and Dan gets pissed, and then they're in the background behind the couch, Elliott and Lorraine are, and he starts tossing the hoops on her cone.
Yeah.
It's like, again, we've seen that before with Jane and Dan.
Right.
When this sketch ended, my only thought was, I feel like Elliott Gould just wanted to be in a Conehead sketch, and they just didn't have a good idea for it, because there's no other explanation for it other than Elliott was the host, and they're like, hey, what do you want to do this week? And he's like, the Coneheads are great. They're really funny. How can I be in it?
Yeah.
And so they just made something up.
My initial thought was the only bit they had was Garrett as someone from Remulac, a Conehead.
Yeah.
And that was like the gag. So maybe it was forcing Elliott into that bit. I don't know. But even that didn't.
Introducing Garrett alone as a new Conehead person just wasn't enough.
No. Well, that was disappointing. But luckily, we have our first musical number of the night. The McGarrigle sisters come on.
Dude, you can still segue, baby. You still got it. Good work, babe.
To sing their song, Kiss and Say Goodbye, from their debut album. Brad, what do you know of the McGarrigle sisters?
I got nothing. They're Canadian.
Oh.
And one of them, whichever one is Kate, was married to Loudon Wainwright the third.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had since divorced at this point, and their child, Rufus Wainwright.
Oh. Well, there you go. You know something. You know more than I know about the McGarrigle sisters.
But that's all I got. Yeah.
They sang a song. How did you like their song?
I got...
No?
No. I got nothing. I don't...
I'm with you. I didn't really have anything. My only note was their build is the McGarrigle sisters, but it really felt like the one at the piano was carrying all the weight here. The other
that
one
must be the one Elliott Gould is banging then, because why else are they on this show?
I don't know. Why does it have to be Elliott Gould?
Well, he was the host. I don't know. I just assumed.
Oh, well. Let's move on to greener pastures. or we can move on to
dynamite job on that one, boys. Moving on.
We can move on to the talk show.
Jesus
You've
Christ.
come a long way, buddy. A show for men by men. The entire cast is men. The crew is men.
I didn't think this was going to get worse, and I forgot about this one. Yep.
They're just piling it on. So Elliott Gould is the host. Bill, Garrett, John, and Dan are all the panelists in this show. And it starts with...
Doesn't Elliott introduce all four of the men? And when he does his drive-by of all four, and he mentions that John has started a rape hotline.
Yeah, I was saving
I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. That line worried me right off the bat. As soon as they lead off with a rape, I'm like, this is not bode well.
No.
And then they move on to Dan, who starts,
Dan has the artwork. Garrett works with Black Men and Boys in Harlem and started the first all-male, all-black basketball team, I think is what they say he did.
Yes, league basketball, yes.
Basketball league, yes, sorry.
Because the whole point is that men have it hard, Gary. Like men have it tough in this world. So Garrett was like, they're black and they're men. They've got two strikes. And then he's talking about working with young men. That's three strikes. They're young, they're black, and they're men. Bill
opened a bar for men and women.
Poor Bill.
Where he
had a rough night.
So tongue tied on this one.
He couldn't get the name of the bar out without stepping over it himself. He calls Elliott at one point. He doesn't call him by his real name. It's just
Garrett also messed up his name, but
that's Garrett. You expect it from Garrett.
Bill, it felt like the cue card person dropped the cue cards on Bill because he froze for a minute, and it was like,
I think he knew it. He's like, God damn it.
He started a bar called the Not Just a Meat Rack Bar for men to pick up women, but where women wouldn't feel like that was the only reason they were at the bar. I was kind of confused by that one, to be honest, because
I think Bill was confused at that point.
I think maybe that's why. And then John plays
Dan was good though. Dan was good with the artwork and talking about artwork for men, so men can see artwork, and they need to know like they're not sissies that they do art. And all the music we have in our gallery is music by men, like Beethoven. And he's like,
right.
Dan does good. He does do a good job.
Of course, he's Dan.
I'm just trying to talk it up as best I can before we
get to John, who set up a 24-hour rape hotline for the rapists.
And my note right here is Belushi, ... oh shit, ... yep, oh shit.
Yeah. He does say that they try to encourage men to go to the police station. This is where it took a turn. But I will say this is.
I don't think it took a turn. It was always going down this road. It just hit the exit. There was no like left turn out of this. Like this was set up for this moment of the sketch.
I know. I feel like they kind of blew it by introducing him in the drive-by, saying that he started a rape hotline.
Yeah, if they held off on that, you knew it was coming. But I agree with you regardless.
Right.
If they didn't set it up in the intros, it would have. This is going to sound really bad. Played better if it wasn't set up.
Well, it would have been more of like a shock,
shock,
right?
Joke.
And if they held on to it for a little bit longer,
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, I think they're trying to be smart and poke fun at the feminist movement. I just don't know if it was the best way or the funniest way to do it.
Right.
Like Dan's shit is funny. Dan is very funny. Garrett tried. Garrett wasn't bad. And then it kind of goes off the rail because Bill fumbles and then it's just, they, you know what? It could be O'Donoghue because they swing. And I always say it because
I get you.
They swing for the fences. Like you're all in, both feet. You jump in the deep end on this premise and you're not holding back.
Right.
And that's why I feel like it could be O'Donoghue because it's the fearlessness of like, we're just fucking going for it. We don't care. We're going to do it.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that could possibly follow that is Weekend Update.
So my very first note is, how does Jane follow that? That's my first note on Weekend Update.
Well, she's also a little shaky here and uneasy in the beginning.
Oh my, she's fucking pissed. I mean, she mock laughs at the first 3 jokes that don't hit.
No, I know. She and you could tell she did not like the jokes. She was not happy
right off the
this.
bat, she missed the camera. And who knows? Because maybe they're changing stuff on her at the last minute, so it's all new to her. Who knows? But yeah, right off the bat, her first joke, she's got to be unhappy because she's missing the camera, so she's thrown off. She does the fake laugh. Oh, here I am. Just make a line, something like that, right?
Something like that, yeah.
And she does a Gerald Ford joke about something about his hat, and he's not wearing a hat, and no one laughs. And so she looks at the camera and goes, "He doesn't even wear a hat." Ha ha ha. And it's like she's just like, bail me out of this.
Yeah. And eventually, Bill comes on at the desk to talk about demonstrations in New York to clean up all the porn shops. And he talks about huge, throbbing, pulsating crowds. And he gets through, and then Jane's like, "Okay, Bill, you can go."
It grows 5 times in size. It's a very lewd conversation. I thought it could have been funny. I thought the writing was there.
Yeah.
Part of it juxtaposed from that last sketch felt bizarre. I feel like if we didn't see that last sketch, this would have played a lot better. But I feel that sketch and Jane's intro, just the vibe was really weird. And then Bill comes in and does this segment, which I think it could have been funny. The writing was there, but I think Bill I think he was a little bit uneasy maybe from his stumbles in the last sketch. And then just the crowd not laughing at the first few minutes of Weekend Update. I don't know.
And he kept looking down at the paper. Like he read from the paper most of that monologue. And he felt unsettled. But then the joke is that, Jane says, "Okay, you can go now, Bill." And he's like, I can't. It would be embarrassing.
It was
she's
funny.
Like, oh, it was. That part was funny. Their interaction was funny. And then she said, "Here, well, read a couple of stories."
And then he reads the news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was fun. It was different.
That was good. Yeah. I liked it.
And then it went back to Jane and then back to Bill again. Like he was there longer than I anticipated him being there. Well,
they do the joke about a device to stop cancer from cigarettes getting into you, and it goes through a white mouse. And Bill takes, "If you like to smoke and hold small animals," like it was a good Bill Murray line.
Yeah.
He's holding a cigarette with a white mouse.
With a mouse, yeah. And then eventually it leads to a story about Howdy Doody committing suicide, which turns into a Lorraine bit.
Yeah, I have the same thing. This becomes a Lorraine bit, question mark? What?
Yeah. And Lorraine interviews Howdy Doody's widow, Debbie Doody.
"Jane, I'm standing outside Forest Lawn Cemetery where funeral services have just been held for Howdy Doody. It was a solemn but star-studded occasion with the former puppet's close friends and relatives in attendance. Pallbearers included Charlie McCarthy, Mortimer Snurd, Jerry Mahorny, Knucklehead Smith, David Eisenhower, and Senor Wences's fist. Few people knew that Doody had a wife, Debbie Doody. I see she's approaching me right now. Howdy, Debbie. Oh, I'm so sorry. I know this is a time of grief for you, Debbie, but what's in the future for Debbie Doody?
I don't know.
Well, thank you for spending this time with us. Moment of grief.
Thank you. Thank you.
Back to you, Jane.
Amazing. Legitimately, like not exaggerating, she is phenomenal playing like a puppet, a marionette. Like she's bouncing around and hopping and her arms are flailing and she's just going every which way. She is amazing.
Yeah. And she makes Lorraine break towards the end. Because
Oh,
she
at the
keeps
end, because she
bumping
leaves,
into Lorraine.
and then she bounces back, and her arms like flop around her and give her a hug, and she jumps on her. Like
she's all tangled in those strings. Yeah.
The whole thing is like it's so quick, and I almost wish it was longer because this is the best thing in the episode is Gilda doing Debbie duty. It is. This is the funniest thing all night. We're just not. You got like check it out. Gilda Radner, we're not doing it justice. She is amazing.
But then we go back to a weird close-up on Jane.
She looks pissed.
Right?
She does, yeah. Like she was unhappy at the beginning of Weekend Update. We come back and she looks fucking pissed off. Cut to John.
Exactly. And you see like in that close-up, you even see like his arm go in and like, I don't know. So John is in as the weather person for
Gary, it's called a meteorologist. He's meteorologist John Belushi. He has a title.
It is meteorologist. For some reason, I thought it was weatherman.
No, this time I think they actually call him meteorologist.
Yeah. And he comes on to explain the weather to shut-ins. So he shows them a cloudy day by using a lamp and cold by putting on a scarf and rain with a spray bottle, all these different things. And then he turns a fan on with wind. And then eventually he yells at the fan for some reason as he starts to take his turn. And then he goes off on insurance and then India and curry.
He threw mothballs in the air for sleet, which I did think was funny. It was the one, like before you start coming at me that I think he's amazing and does no wrong, this is not a good John Belushi bit. It's not funny. It goes way too long.
Way too long. Yeah.
Yeah. It just, and then he does some stuff at the end where he does the bit where he goes to Jane, where he's going to like hit Jane. He's like, hold it, curtain. Don't bother, curtain. Come on. And for whatever, it definitely didn't land. And to me, it almost felt a little like too real.
Yeah.
Of John and just his energy and her. It just something about it just did not. Maybe it was Jane's demeanor going into this bit that led to it, but like that ending just didn't, something felt really off. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
It's about this time, Gary, where my note. Does this episode suck? I mean, it's not great, right?
It's not great. I mean, again, we had that cold open was good. The monologue was good. And then I felt like nothing else has been good.
Then we had a bad
except for the Debbie duty.
A shitty musical act.
The
man
show.
Sketch and a really bad weekend up. I don't know.
And a long weekend update. Like you had Bill and Lorraine and John all do different hits and update. It was long.
Yeah.
And it wasn't great.
No.
But we get our first Nick the Lounge Singer right after Weekend Update.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was the strongest Nick the Lounge Singer, but it's his first appearance.
Yes. Yep.
And this is anyone who knows Nick the Lounge Singer, you know what this sketch is. So this is Bill Murray as Nick Summers singing in the lounge at the Lake Minnehaha camp or summer thing. And no one is into it. So he goes over to John and Gilda, who are celebrating their anniversary. He sees Elliott Gould, who's the water ski instructor, and he's there with someone else's wife.
Anniversary, Mr. and Mrs. Gunnar Alquist. Happy anniversary to you. Thank you. I want to take this opportunity to introduce a celebrity in the audience sitting way back there in the dark. I almost can't see you, Skeeter. Don't you want anybody to know that you're here? The man who put the Breezy Point Lodge on the map, Lake Minnehaha's own water ski instructor, Skeeter Miller. Come on, let's hear it. He also does a heck of a job on the water show on Saturday afternoons. And who is this pretty young miss, Skeeter? What's your name, miss?
That's Mrs. Campbell.
Mrs. Campbell. Oh, of course, your husband broke his ankle. He's going to be laid up this week. Mucho sorry about that. Well, I'm awfully glad that you two could come. Thank you for that. And be sure, everybody, to check out Skeeter's show or ask him to help you get up on the boards yourself. Because he's a terrific... Uh-oh! That's the catch of the day, fanfare, which can mean only one thing. Time for a special event, the catch of the day! Here he is, the biggest fish pulled out of Lake Minnehaha today, caught by our own fishing and snowmobile guide, Jimmy Joe Red Sky. He is the best guide in the parts, no question about that. He's got a beautiful Chris Craft with twin Mercs, and he packs the lunch, right, Jimmy Jim?
You know, remember too, this is Bill Murray before he's got confidence. You know what I mean? There's a really interesting interaction. I don't know if you caught this at the very end of the sketch, and they pull out wide.
Yeah.
And he kind of like turns to Paul as the camera's going up and kind of shrugs his shoulders like, I don't know. And I mean, it could be part of the sketch, but I kind of felt like it looked like he looked at Paul and was like, I don't know. We tried. Like, what do you think? Like you know what I mean? They had been working on this and it finally got to air. And this actually looked like a real moment between the two of them where he looked at him and was like, oh, what do you think? Did it work? I don't know. Like, cause I feel like they caught that little moment of an insecure Bill Murray, like just trying to get reassurance from his closest ally. And like you said, it's an iconic character. It's not fair to go back and look at the very first one and nitpick and say this isn't Star Wars, you know, the one that's on every single highlight reel for the last 50 years. But there's enough there that I'm excited to see where they go for the second one.
Yeah.
Like they've laid the groundwork and you get a good host. You don't even, and this is another one, you don't even need a good host. Like the host does nothing in this sketch. This is a Bill Murray sketch. This will continue to be a Bill Murray sketch that the host just needs to sit in a chair and get poked fun of for 2 minutes. And then he'll just go around the room.
So it's a good launching pad for this character.
I think so.
Starting point.
It's there. Like, again, it's on its own. It's not a great sketch, but it's awesome to see it as its first incarnation.
You're right. It's all there. You know, it's not there. The faces in the next sketch.
I have so many questions. Many questions. I have no answers. I have just questions.
Well, I guarantee I won't have answers. But we have Jane playing Joan Crawford.
First question, why in the hell is Jane doing Joan Crawford? My first question. Sorry.
I don't know. Honestly, I think this is not an answer. This is a guess on my part. I didn't know if Joan Crawford was like doing some charity thing like this. So she
must have.
Kind of like Sally Struthers did when we were kids. Remember, she would see her all over the place. And she is doing a PSA for the United Face Bank, talking about people born without a face. And she's sitting next to someone who is born without a face.
Can't breathe, can't smell, can't eat.
Can't see. Yeah, can't eat.
Can't hear. No face.
And then they bring on Garrett, who's a professional football player for the Miami Dolphins, who received a face transplant of a young white girl. And Garrett comes out. Kudos to the makeup department for this, because they made him up. They made him up to look like a young white girl. I thought he was good too. Like this was a good Garrett sketch. And that's what this sketch was. It was like a PSA where.
Wait.
Yeah.
Are you going to leave out the whole part where at the end Garrett goes and asks to look in the fridge to see if there's anything else in there? And like there's literally a fridge full of faces that he rummages through. Like what the fuck is up with that?
What are you talking about? Those are all the donations.
It's so bizarre.
I don't understand some of your questions. Pretty straightforward. What do you mean? What is it? It's exactly what it seems like.
It's so bizarre.
It's a bizarre sketch. What was that? Your only question was about the jars in the fridge
and why she's doing Joan Crawford.
Oh yeah. Well,
I mean, what is this? But it is her second impression after she did
Betty Ford.
Betty Ford.
Yeah.
This is her second impression. I kind of like her. Like Jane's pretty.
Yeah, I think she was good.
I mean, listen, how great is Jane?
How great is Jane? Sure.
That could have been the most forced one I've given.
I think
it
was. And then we come back to Elliott Gould performing his hosting duties, and he doesn't set up anything. He introduces this week's Gary Weiss film, which is just a montage of fights in professional sports.
Right. He introduces it saying athletes in the late 70s are accused of playing sports only for the money.
Right.
And then he shows this Gary Weiss film of all these athletes getting into fights because in theory they love the sport. I actually love this idea. I think this is a great idea, of this is your theory and why you're going to dispute it with the video of players, fighting each other and getting pissed off.
Right.
I don't think the song choice just did not fit.
I mean,
Like, what
I
was
thought
the
that was
song
the
was-
joke.
That was the joke?
Yeah. I mean, look at me like I mean, that was the gag, I think, was like, these are American sports.
And they're fighting to, what do you call it? It's
America the Beautiful.
by Ray Charles. So I didn't think the song and the video didn't match. And then it just like ended. Like it abruptly ended. Like the song just cut out.
Yeah. That felt like Lauren was like, all right, let's cut this. This isn't funny.
What do you, in all honesty,
Yeah.
what is the over-under on how much time Gary Weiss spent on this film? 9 minutes? He repeats the same shot of the guy throwing the bat at the pitcher 4 times.
Right?
In a film that is maybe 4 minutes long, he uses that same shot 4 times.
Maybe 4 minutes long. I know.
And then it just cuts
Yes.
out. I swear. I'm saying he spent 9 minutes, 9.5 at most.
I bet he personally spent even less than that because he had some researcher pull archival footage and it's just like, yeah, that one, and that one. Just repeat that one. I know. The whole thing is bizarre.
But I like I said, the idea was funny. And when like Elliott introduces it and you start seeing the first couple images of like the guy throwing the bat and, you know, the basketball players, I'm like, okay, this could be funny if it was done better. I don't know. Whatever.
I believe that was the latest review of our podcast too.
Probably.
This could be this could be funny if it was done better.
Please rate and review. We will reference them.
Well, Elliott Gould is like, hey, I'm not done with my hosting duties yet. I'm going to come on and introduce
What has he done?
the McGarrigle sisters.
At this point, he's really top. I say that, but he's top heavy because he's in the cold open. He had a good monologue. He hosted a sketch.
Yeah.
But ever since he hosted that sketch,
That was it. Yeah.
he's sat at Nick the Lounge Singer and he's introduced people.
Yeah. The McGarrigle sisters come on and sing Heart Like a Wheel. I believe this is also from their debut album.
That has to be their only album.
To this point, maybe.
Full disclosure, it is not.
It's not?
No, they apparently have a bunch of albums. I don't know.
Really?
I looked it up for like a minute, but it's because I assumed this was their only album. And no, I think they recorded into the 90s. I don't know.
I don't know. I got nothing for you on McGarrigle sisters.
I swear one of them is sleeping with Elliott Gould, though. I still stand by that.
Maybe.
Prove me wrong.
I was, yeah.
By the way, it was 1970s Elliott Gould. I mean, come on.
Who wasn't sleeping with
Mustache or
1970s
no, that
Elliott
dude
Gould?
is getting around.
Well, unfortunately, he didn't get around enough to find another writer to work on the next sketch because
This sketch sucks.
this is I mean, normally when we see Garrett and Bill together, they're just doing nothing. So
Now you know why.
yeah, this time it's Garrett and Bill. They go to an ATM because Bill owes Garrett money. And it's a giant ATM with buttons the size of your hand. And they have to answer a bunch of questions. So now it turns into like a game show. And then
Luckily,
yeah.
Garrett is there to read all of the text that comes on the screen to us. So if it
Yeah.
wasn't enough that there was a screen with the text, he will read it all to us.
Thank goodness, because we know how great Garrett is at reading things. Better than Bill. He's better than Bill tonight. So,
Woo.
yeah. This was
The man's
rough.
getting a star on the Walk of Well, by now he's gotten a star on the Walk of Fame. And you're
Well
going to sit
deserved.
here with your
Well
little microphone
deserved.
and take shots. How dare you, sir?
How dare I? Yeah, no, I apologize for everything I've said, except this was not funny. I
It
won't
was not.
apologize for that.
I mean, at the end of this, I wrote, am I angry? Because I feel angry. Like watching it, not even talking about it now. When I watched it, I felt angry.
Were you?
I think I was.
Why did they keep referencing Mesopotamia?
I don't know. Then there's a driving test. And then the joke was that there's not money because the Department of Treasury
that's
or
right.
whatever, like changed the
Changed it,
currency
yeah.
to cheese. So then cheese came out at the end. And then it was like,
No,
we're done.
head
Or
cheese.
head cheese.
It's not
head
cheese. Yeah.
I don't
Head cheese is like a meat. It's kind of
I
like
wrote head cheese
cold
on
cut.
my notes. Oh, right. Whatever.
doesn't matter. It
No.
doesn't make it any funnier or less funny.
The one thing that was, and I had to go look this up, but in the beginning, they had that kind of a title card thing joke about the Saturday night, not.
Oh,
airing,
that's
whatever.
right. Yes, I forgot that. Yeah.
And so back then on the SNL off nights, there was a show called Weekend that would air on the off nights, hosted by this guy Lloyd Dobbs, and that show would feature those
Dobbins.
kind of bumpers, or Dobbins, excuse me. That show would feature like those kind of bumpers with like humorous chyrons and such. So it was a play on that show that now no one would have any reference. And I didn't until, I had to look it up and figure out, because I was like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
So that was kind of funny and kind of cool. They're like mocking the other NBC show.
Yeah. Well, that thing finally ends, and then we go to our next sketch, which turns out to be our last sketch of the night.
Oh, is it? Shit.
It's our last live sketch, I should say. Anyway,
Right.
it takes place at a restaurant that Elliott and Gilda, playing a couple, go into, and it is the Natural Causes restaurant owned by Dan and Lorraine's like hippie valley couple characters that we've seen once before. Maybe
They did
twice?
them on the Peter Boyle episode, right? Your favorite episode.
Yeah.
Best episode of all time. Peter Boyle.
I mean, I don't know why they don't just replay that. And they come out to talk about how, they do sell meat, but it's all of the animals have died of natural causes, and they go through all of these different things. There's a sheep in the back if they want leg of lamb, but it's not dead yet, so they can't serve it.
They go to check on it, and Lorraine comes out. She's like, "Oh, bad news, man! Like the sheep is still wheezing." Because their menu makes no sense, so they have to literally explain what every single item on the menu is.
They have to make it up as they go along every day. So whatever the special is every day changes in each thing. So yeah. And this sketch, I was like, what are we doing? Where is this going? And then
up until this point, this is not a good sketch. And it really sucks.
Yep.
But then
bring it home.
They mention something on the menu, and he says, "What's this?" And Dan says, "Oh, that's a steak."
Yep.
Well, what is this arm surprise?
Oh, the arm surprise. Well, that's just steak, man,
Steak? What happened? Did the cow have a heart attack?
No, man. What happened was, one day I was standing outside of the restaurant, okay? And like this cow dropped out of the sky, and later I found out it was this flying Mexican meat smuggler's airplane, He was being chased by the U.S. Border Patrol, he got caught on radar, and he had to jettison his cattle.
Are you trying to tell me that you have steak on the menu because some flying Mexican meat smuggler who's being chased by American feds dropped a cow over your restaurant accidentally?
There are no accidents.
Really? So, man, how would you like your steak? Rare, medium, or well done?
Sure enough, they dropped the cow. And I wrote it down twice. They dropped the cow. They dropped the cow. I take back everything I said. I don't know why I love this gag so much. This is one of the best sketches I've seen all season.
My note that I wrote was, you have to let Brad set up the cow.
It's fucking great. It was great. It was a shitty sketch. Elliott looked pissed. It was going nowhere. I did not expect it. Even when this is how dumb I am. Even when he repeats the whole, you had a guy flying cattle. I was so upset. I wasn't even paying attention. And then they dropped the goddamn cow. It was the best. It was great.
Yeah.
The episode still sucks. But dropping the cow is still funny as hell.
Dropping the cow was great. And that was it. That was that sketch.
I wish we don't talk about current episodes at all. I would love if with no explanation, they just dropped a goddamn cow in a sketch.
That would be amazing.
It'd be amazing. No one would have any idea what was going on.
Nope.
It'd be so good.
No. Well, I think that was probably the highlight of definitely the second half of the show, maybe the entire episode.
No. Gilda's Debbie.
Oh, okay. Debbie Duty's still better.
Still, yeah.
All right.
She's so good.
I know. We went over that. Back to Elliott Gould to introduce Roslyn Kind, who is
right.
Barbra Streisand's half sister. So it is his son's aunt.
That's what he said.
That's what he said. And she sings "I'm Not Anymore," an old Paul Anka tune.
Doesn't make it any better. When do they drop the cow on this lady?
Oh.
And I'm out of notes. Thank you.
Oh. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
You're out of notes. Wait, you're out of notes for Roslyn Kind or the entire episode?
I don't have that many more for the whole episode. No.
I know. There's not that much more. I don't think we have to dwell on Roslyn Kind. And I will say, would you prefer more of Roslyn Kind or more of McGarrigle sisters?
That's an excellent question.
Mm-hmm.
Can I vote a la Richard Pryor in Brewster's Millions and say none of the above?
No, you have to pick one.
Have to pick one.
Yeah.
I go with the sisters because I feel like they would pull something else out, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm holding out with two of them that one of them would do something. Probably the one sleeping with Elliott Gould, whichever one that was.
How do you know Roslyn Kind isn't sleeping with Elliott Gould just to get back at Barbra Streisand?
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
They did look chummy. They did look chummy on there when she came up to help him introduce the home movie.
Right? A lot of kisses.
Perhaps a little too chummy. Interesting.
I like
onto something here.
I like that this is where this podcast is going.
There's not much else to talk about, sadly.
There's not. We can talk about the home movie, but this is just we got to run through it.
Yeah.
So this home movie's called Clown Affair. A guy comes home to find his wife being intimate with a clown doll, and then a fight ensues between the guy and the doll, and then he gets his wife back. Is there anything else to this? Did I miss anything?
No.
Okay.
No, I did not like this. This felt like filler. This felt like they were like 2 minutes short, and they're like, what do we have? Throw this in. And you know what? We haven't seen a lot of home movies this season.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, this feels to me the first time actually the home movie felt out of place. Like just not like being a smart ass and being whatever. Like it just felt a little out of place. And I feel like just because we haven't seen them that much. Like we haven't expected them. I don't know. Just something about it just seemed odd.
Yeah. I think the placement after this Roslyn Kind song didn't help it. I think that helped it feel out of place.
She did us no favors. That's true.
Yeah. But even like if you put this before her after that natural disaster sketch, right? Like it may have flowed a little bit better. I don't know. I
also didn't like that the clown kind of looked like Mr. Bill. That bothered me too.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Like it's whatever. I mean, I have my own issues. I agree. But
with clowns?
Just in general. I don't know. But then they do, like you mentioned earlier, then they do ask for submissions, which they haven't been doing. So maybe they are still trying to keep it alive. I don't know.
I don't know either. But if you're calling that filler, then they throw in the Pilsen's feed bag commercial, which we saw earlier, which stars Chevy Chase. We don't need to rehash that, do we?
No. But the only thing I'll say to that is that's our only pre-tape, right?
I mean, aside from the home movie and the Barry Weiss film.
But I mean, like a commercial parody pre-tape thing. That's the only one. Yeah. So they only do one in the episode. It just happens to be at the end of a slog. But it's not like they've put like 3 of them on or something.
Right.
And they still have time.
I was going to say, and then they came on and they still were running short on time. And Elliott Gould mentions that, and Dan comes on and asks for a gas tank for his Harley Davidson.
That's like a legendary bit. Like Dan do it. I've read about that many times of Dan coming on and asking for the tanks for the Harley. And it was really funny. It was very good.
And you could see, I think it was like Gilda in the background just started laughing at him and like shaking her head. Like, of course he's doing this.
And then John takes shots at Johnny. They take the Johnny Carson shot, and Doc Severinsen. He's like, "We never watched your show, but we still respect it." Like it was like, yeah.
And
at least they were all out there to help him this time. I know you get upset when the cast is standing there by themselves for 2 minutes. So at least they were all out there.
Well, it felt like the stage manager didn't help him this kind of time because they didn't tell him he was live. He eventually is like,
I think he
"Am I
knew.
on?"
He's just like, I don't have that much time to fill, so I'm just going to walk around.
That was our episode. That was a disappointing Elliott Gould episode.
This was not good.
Yeah.
There was nothing there. And it was also, as much as it was a just weird, not great episode, the ending was so weird. You end with a bad musical number and 2 pre-tapes that don't include the cast.
Yeah, it was weird.
I don't know.
Disappointing.
I think I'm just more upset because they wasted a great host. And I don't even like Elliott Gould that much in general, but he is a great host on this show.
John calls him the best host ever.
He
at the
does.
end.
That's a good point. I mean, this is kind of like something you expect from Dick Cavett, not Elliott Gould.
Yeah.
We just talked about it for an hour. What did Elliott Gould do tonight? Like, you got to think. You have to stop and think.
Right. His highlight is the song and dance number in the monologue. Yeah.
Monologue. But like, you have to think because it's so far gone and it's been so mass since then. You're like, I don't remember.
Right.
It's a bummer. I think
it is a bummer.
It's more of a bummer. Like, again, you always have episodes that hit and episodes that miss. I think we've mentioned earlier. It's like you get somebody like Elliott Gould and your expectations are just so high. It's hard to live up to him. And when you don't come close, it just hurts that much more. I think, I don't know. It's just, I think that's really what it is.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Well, Brad, what were your best bits?
Debbie Duty. That's it. Debbie Duty. Gilda was fantastic. It's amazing. She'll do it again at least one more time.
Yeah. That's
it, really. I don't know. Why? You got anything else?
I mean, the only thing that I liked was
Yeah. No, because I think you're right. I think you're right what you're going to say.
Oh, what am I going to say?
You're going to say the monologue, the castration walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just because it was fun and different and it included the cast this time. Like,
I think, by the time this ended and I wrote down my best bits, I was just so pissed and I forgot because that was so long ago, but you're right. That was good for what it was and playing on his song and dance. And yeah.
And honestly, I think if they had tightened up the natural disasters restaurant thing, because it ended on the cow, if they had tightened that whole thing up, I think it would have been up there, but it needed work.
Yeah. Dropping the cow. That was good. God damn it. I love that gag.
I love that you love that so much.
I do. I do. Oh, man. Oh, well.
Next week, we're talking about season 2, episode 20 with host Eric Idle and musical guests.
Oh, shit.
Alan Price, Neil Innes, Howard Shore and his Bobby Blue Band, and special guest Jeanette Charles. Until then,
hooah!
Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
The Not Ready for Primetime podcast is a 2 Pints Productions production. Produced and edited by Brad and Gary. Thought about by Brad and Gary. Please rate and review. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.